Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers podcast. It is not quite a podcast where we celebrate the greatest American sitcom of all time, except for the first few episodes of season 2, Cheers. Not that I'm about to go on a rant, but here we are. And another thing about Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Okay, here we are, joined as always by the amazing Tookie Kavanaugh and delightful David Rabinow. Hey, how was your week, everybody?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Things are galloping apace towards, a return to a new and better normal.
There you go. If there was one thing that you would call a better normal that might come out of this year in quarantine, what would it be? What are you hoping for? What's a change that you maybe hope lasts? It could be big, it could be little.
Yeah. No, I'll go with having sat and happily sat. I don't mean to frame this as like this was a difficult meeting, but like I sat through a diversity, inclusion, and equity meeting this morning for my college's theater department.
Where Dave is hoping no more diversity. All right, that's
finally hoping. Hoping to roll back. Hoping to roll some of that inclusion back. No, it was like, oh right, like because nothing matters during pandemic, and because everything. American society was revealed for the sham that it is. It was a wonderful reminder that, like, oh right, in my small part as an occasional educator, I can dismantle anything that is preventing anyone from feeling like they can't get an education, at least as far as the principles of playwriting goes. So that was really fun. Like thinking, like, oh right, who gives a shit if I give someone like about like B pluses and B minuses, like. Fuck the grading system. Let's get everybody in a room and talk and like we can actually maybe affect some sort of change in the world. That's what I was excited about today.
Yeah,
the brick by brick dismantling of the American educational system.
I support the abolishment of grades wholeheartedly.
Death to Horace Mann. I mean, he's already dead, but death again to Horace Mann.
Yeah, like we don't owe him something.
No.
We can let a few of these things go. Tookie, what's one thing that you would like to keep or change or eliminate?
Okay,
from the
right.
Quarantine year.
Okay, what's really, I think, the most upsetting thing to me has been seeing, like, not even just the car commercials about these unprecedented times. Mm-hmm. It's time to buy a Jeep. Like, not even that. For me, it's when companies put out their ads and stuff, and they're like, and at Popeyes, we sanitize every surface now. And like, bitch, what the fuck were you doing before? So I'm just glad that everything's clean. Mm-hmm. People are actually taking sanitization seriously. Because I'm not like
even though no one's actually getting COVID from a chicken sandwich, it's still good.
Yeah. People were getting stabbed over that sandwich, but
I'm missing a bus.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad that like we're taking. Again, I'm not like a huge germaphobe, but as somebody with a not great immune system, it's important to me to enter into clean environments, to touch clean surfaces. I don't take that for granted. So it's nice to know that now things are clean.
Yep. Along those lines, I think I'm voting handshaking being gone. I think that's a custom of a bygone era. It doesn't need to exist. We spread more germs that way than anything. It's more sanitary to hug strangers than to shake their hand.
Ooh.
It is. Like your hand is everywhere.
Ooh.
Yeah, just no more handshaking. And it was to like prove that you were unarmed back in the day. It's like, see, you're safe. What about this hand? I got another hand.
So you're saying Howie Mandel was ahead of his time?
Way ahead of his time. Fist bumping, much more sanitary. It's the same gesture. Yeah, just go ahead. So I'm hoping that handshaking is gone, especially in the world of comedy, which I may or may not inhabit when all of this is over. All right. So I'm stalling because, man, I feel like it's 0 for 3 on season 2 of Cheers.
This was the best one, I think, so far.
So far.
Yeah. Next week is a great episode. Next week is a legitimately fun episode. I'm very excited about talking about it, so it's not going to go on forever. But god damn, I don't like this. Break up. I don't like it. It's making me uncomfortable. I feel like they don't know what they want to write about. They don't know what they want to do. They can't tell if they're a romance show or a sitcom. It's very weird. I'm not happy. And I'm not hiding it well. So if you guys just want to talk boxing this week, I'm fine with that. If not, Dave, tell us what was going on when season 2, episode 3 first premiered.
So we're looking at Thursday, October 20th, 1983. A date probably most notable for being the day after the Senate, the U.S. Senate voted to recognize Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as a holiday. So it's the first day in
83.
83.
Arizona, it's only going to take a few decades more.
Yeah, they've always
no
been
rush, Phoenix. No rush.
you don't like to leap into these things unexamined. Not other. I mean, other than that sort of like fairly momentous moment, not a massive sort of week on the cultural landscape. Some fascinating movies are coming out in the next day or two, including, let's see, we've got The Right Stuff that's actually released on this day. Rumblefish is released on this day, which is a movie that I've heard referenced but never seen. And then on Friday, we'll see the start of Tom Cruise's career with All the Right Moves, and perhaps the Christopher Walken film, The Dead Zone, is going to be released. So it's a good time to make your way to the local Cineplex. It's also an interesting day if you take a step back and look at this date in history. A lot of great Americans born on this day. Great artists, I should say, not just Americans. We've got Snoop Dogg born on this day in 1971. Viggo Mortensen, born on this day in 1958. Jelly Roll Morton, born in Mississippi on this date in 1890. Jerry Orbach, and probably my favorite celebrity birthday for October 20th, the late great Tom Petty, born on this day in 1950. So it's a date where a lot of creative juices in the air, but like this episode, perhaps a date that is a little bit culturally a little bit subtler. It's not perhaps the most. It lacks the punch that the 19th had with the passing of MLK Jr.'s birthday.
Oh, indeed. All right, Tookie, would you like to tell us about this week's cold open? Because I don't want anything to do with
it. Well, they broke the streak of having a cold open that has something to do with the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
At this point, and we enter on the bar. Two couples waiting downstairs for their reservations at Melville's, and they both go up to Coach, who's tending bar at the moment, and one says, "We have a reservation for the Andersons," and another, in a very affected Boston accent, goes, "We have a reservation for the Andersons as well." And so Coach is, of course, addled in the moment, at sea, if you will, and so he calls upstairs to see if which Anderson is which is their first name, which fun line, well, it has to go by the first name. What's your first name? Well, they call me Ernie, but everybody calls me Coach, or my name's Ernie, but everybody calls me Coach. The only memorable aspect, but anyway. Yeah. Coach calls upstairs, and of course the maitre d' is a snoot because it's Melville's, and so Coach unwittingly relays his rude remarks to everyone at the bar, not just those patrons. Reservations for the blubber butts, that's what it is. reservations for the blubber butts, and
Mhm.
it rings.
Yeah.
It's like one if by land, two if by sea, just all throughout the bar. Everybody can hear it.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. Yeah.
I will say, like, I did not like this cold open, but I did. I guess in my second watching, I found a little island of appreciation for the first Anderson's accent. Not the second couple, but the first one. It seemed very specific and very sort of like I don't know. I actually wanted to spend more time with those Andersons. I wanted to hear what their story was, and you could kind of see Mrs. Anderson throughout the episode. And I was always like, frankly, I think this would have been better if we had focused more on the Andersons.
Yeah, you feel like there might have been a Kennedy connection somewhere, like way back, and she can't get through a dinner without mentioning it. Like she's gonna drop a Rose Kennedy reference at some point. She's gonna go, Auntie Rose, Kennedy. So we were, yeah. All right.
This one clunked. This one
clunked. It's personal business. There's a few. I didn't take notes on this week. It is my least prepared week. I'll come up with the answers. It was weird. I didn't feel like, and I understand things are of a time, and we talk about that every week. It felt poorly written, even with the uncomfortable subject matter that gets dealt with there in this. It still felt like a lazily written episode.
It felt like a note I took was that everything felt very arch. Like everybody was very like kind of like I just sort of like almost like sort of putting on this sort of prickly kind of like borderline nasty kind of way of dealing with each other that I didn't like, with one or two very notable exceptions, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah. It's just, it's uncomfortable. It feels like there were so many moments where I'm going, even in Cheers, they're not going to say that. Like, man, it offends me so much when some guy treats my squeeze that way. Like, who says squeeze? Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Even a sentient stapler would know not to say that.
That hasn't been a term of endearment since 1956.
No, and Diane would have said something earlier. It wouldn't have taken her all that time to dawn on what Sam is saying there. I mean, how dumb is Diane supposed to be in this episode that all this time then she's like, oh, that is offensive. And it is. It's weird that in 83, like, this poor woman has spent like 2 weeks looking for jobs, and everyone has had them hit on her. It's like, and that's just kind of like glossed over, and then that's over. And then it becomes a joke about like Sam pretending like, oh, you just want to use me for my body. And that it ended with, I enjoyed the repartee after that, where they were talking about, if we went a month, that was my favorite part of the week. That where I thought that was very funny. He's like, if you please, yeah, would you mind? That was okay. Everything getting to it just felt like lazy writing. It felt like they wanted to get to that scene, and okay, how do we get to this? All right, here's enough excuses. So the A story. I'm sorry, I'm not even going through the plot. The A story is Carla feels like Diane is taking advantage of her relationship with Sam to get anything that she wants in the bar. So she wants to switch a night off. Sam says, come on, can you do it? Diane realizes that, oh, this is untenable, and so she resigns from the bar. She has to go and get another job. She comes back in. She announces that she has a great job as a proofreader for a publishing company. And then she needs a recommendation from Sam, who's going to call. The boss is going to call Sam, and the boss asks if he's ever seen Diane naked. Yeah. Which even of the time, are you not going to be a tiny bit more subtle? Like, you're just going to, like, that's the question? You ever seen her naked? Really? I get it's the 80s, but it's not the 1880s. Would that have even been, and the guy is running a publishing house? I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like even a guy calling from a strip club is not going to be that brazen. It's just weird. It feels like they wrote punchlines and figured out a way to get to them instead of coming up with a really cogent narrative. So they end up saying, all right, come back to work for us. And then she realizes that Sam is doing exactly what the other guy did. Just hired her back because he wanted to have sex with her. And then Sam says, you only took this job because you wanted to have sex with me. And then there's some kind of realization of, oh, he has a point. Fuck you. He doesn't have a point. That's not a point.
I will say, and this might have just been that Shelley Long, once again, kind of like pulls something from the depths of depravity into like something acceptable. But my read on that scene when Sam starts down that line of logic was that it seemed like it was more about, to me, that it was more about him trying to cheer her up, to almost like play like, and it seemed like at that point there was this, that's for me when the episode sort of like, when it became fun, because I was like, oh, both these characters are playing a game, and now they both kind of recognize what the rules of the game are, and now it's kind of, and they're allowed to kind of like play with each other. And it, like the culmination when Sam kind of like dipped his head into the hat rack, and there was a great reaction shot of Shelley Long kind of like suppressing a laugh at that. Yes. That I was like, okay, this isn't perhaps entirely earnest, but it's actually, it's a couple that's trying to sort of be there for each other in a way that they're learning how to do for one another.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
and
same.
I get that that's sort of what they were going for. And the charm of these two actors allows it to be less than cringeworthy, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being too heavy-handed.
Cringe adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just feels like, this sucks what she just went through. And it's one thing to cheer her up, but yeah, it feels like there's no listening to her at all, which is weird.
Just out of curiosity though, because I'm not the kind of, I have very strong boundaries. I'm not the kind of person who dips my pen in the company ink, if you will. But if you were in a position where you were stooping your boss, wouldn't you advocate for an easier schedule? Like, would you not play into that? Like, hey, make my schedule easy.
I suspect I would. I don't know. I feel like I probably wouldn't be doing enough things well in the relationship to feel like that's a card I could play. It's like, it almost feels like what you're saying is, hey, you might lose out on this if I don't get Tuesday night off. And I don't feel like I've ever had that level of confidence.
Kudos to Carla Tortelli for calling it out, for calling out the inequity, like right from jump in this episode. Like, well, obviously I'm not going to be treated fairly. I liked Carla in this episode. I thought Carla was a strong point throughout.
She did very nice application of the Von Erich Iron Claw.
Yeah, I mean, respect. She has a whole litter of children to take care of. So that is the most feminist shit I've seen.
Not so easy to jump a mother of five's schedule around so that you can go to a speech.
Yeah.
Although even like I liked Carla in this one, but I felt like the bouncing the head off the bar, it didn't play that well. I don't know.
I liked when she threw herself on the ground, like the death, after saying like it wouldn't kill me to, like, that was a great sort of physical moment.
Yeah,
that was fun. She was also great. So the B story this week was Norm is separating from his wife, from Vera. So that I remember going on for a bit of this season. And then there is a fun moment where he calls Vera, finds out that she's on a date. He pretends that he is also on a date, and Carla pretends to be the said date, and does a very sexy voice to the point where, and I think this is my joke of the week, where she starts walking away after hanging up the phone, And Norm does very funny. So Carla, and literally, I think my joke of the week is so Carla.
Okay.
It's
Just that beautiful build up to her looking at him and all of us knowing what's coming, and he knows he shouldn't, and he still does. That, wow, that voice was so great. I'm going to do this even though I know where this is going.
Oof.
I see it's a brick wall and I'm driving into it anyway.
what's wonderful too is hearing the audience recognize that moment.
Yeah.
Like there's like a little like caesura between Carla, and then like the moment hangs for like a split second and the audience just gets it and starts laughing. And it's, for me, that was the best part of the whole episode, was that like split second.
Yeah. It was good. That was good.
That moment.
Yeah, that moment. That was a good moment. And I legitimately did enjoy when they started negotiating down from the month to 15 minutes. I thought that was funny. I liked the way that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought it was well delivered. I loved him gesturing her, Miss Chambers, to the couch. I thought that was all very well handled. There were very funny moments inside of a poorly constructed episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just, I mean, good on them for running for 11 seasons, but there were just so many elements of season 2 and even late into season 1 that I just started missing immediately in comparison to the early episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematic quality, the panning from room to room, you know, the angles at which things are shot, the selection of who's in the background, and the tight dialogue. Like all of a sudden it just, this is falling into trope land, and it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, this episode was even kind of shot in sort of like a flat way.
Yeah.
Like that sequence where you're talking about, Mike, in the office, where you have the back and forth between Shelley Long and Ted Danson. It's always cut between one and the other, and you got Shelley Long like just kind of flat against that wall where the couch is, and loses like the kind of like visual like crackling energy when you get the two of them together in one shot. I agree. It's lacking something right now.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I don't know if that's a danger of it because it makes sense. Your first few episodes are probably going to be in some ways, your most interesting episodes. Mm-hmm. There is the danger of the pilot of having to load so much exposition in there. But then a lot of the time those are the episodes you've had the most time to prepare for. You really get to plot that out, and you can't write episode, 18 until you even know if you're getting that. So I get that at some point, but man, you had a whole off season to start season 2 off with a bang, and you didn't. And it's just sort of a bummer that they had, especially knowing the backstory of Cheers and knowing how hard they did the PR push during that off season and how much appreciation they won, and that this was kind of their best offering is a little weird. And you had time to, I don't know if you decided that wasn't your visual style, and so we lost some of those fun, interesting shots, but it's leaving me a little cold. And I thank God next week is Andy. Thank God Andy is coming back next week, because that is a delightful episode. So I'm looking forward to that very much. Did you guys have a joke of the week?
Vibes again. This is vibes more than anything. I think I liked the way this joke was delivered. The writing in this moment, I think, was better than most other moments of dialogue, nuggets of dialogue between characters. But it's when Norm enters and Cliff asks him, "How's life treating you?" And Norm says, "Same." So Cliff says, "Huh, that bad." Yeah. So that banter, I like it. The vibe.
Yeah, I
who lives in a haunted house?
Oh, sorry, my dog just came back from a walk.
Did it survive?
Yeah, it's an old house, squeaky door. What are you going to
do? Sorry, yes, Dave. Joke of the week.
I really think the best moment is that Norm Carla interchange. But I think for a pure joke that made me laugh 2 times when Coach and Norm are talking about how when Norm's telling Coach about how he and Vera met, and Norm says, did I tell you this, Coach? We were in high school together. And Coach looks at him and says, we were?
You can always count on Coach.
Yeah.
That's
Coach is always there for you.
My gosh, just a line double to left field.
All right, before I forget, because I unforgivably forgot this last week. And it was a terrible week to forget it, too. How white was this episode, Tookie?
Oh, gosh. It was alabaster.
It was real white.
Girl. I did spot what could possibly have been the first swirl couple at Cheers.
Ah.
It was a Black woman in deep conversation with a white man in the back of the bar. Yeah.
So
I didn't see that.
Interesting.
83 cheers. Yay.
Yeah. A swirl couple.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts about the whiteness of last week's episode since I was a moron?
Okay, no, you weren't. I forgive. I'm giving you grace in this moment. It was pretty white, but there were 9 Black extras over the course of the 2-day span of that episode, which I thought was pretty nice. So an average of 4.5 Black people across per that's strong. That's strong. That's It was over the course of 2 days versus the accountants episode, the Friends, Romans, whichever episode.
Friends, Romans, accountants. Yep.
Yes. So that is the bar, right?
Yep.
But it reached it over the span of 2 days within that episode. So it's like, okay, close. We're close.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what was your 80s moment of the week?
Oh. Go ahead, Dave.
This episode really seemed to kind of take place in sitcom universe time. Like I didn't find a lot of markers that were specifically made me feel 80s. I guess the one that jumped out at me first was Coach saying save a dime to Norm.
Yes, that was mine.
Which made all of a sudden it sent me down this rabbit hole of like, why do we pay? Why did we have to pay for phone call? Like, I mean, I know we still do, even with cellular service, but like, when was it decided that was going to be a paid service? Like, I immediately started to like I put on like communist folk songs and stuff because I got real up in arms. Like, why were we paying 10 cents to call? That should be a utility. But yeah, save a dime. Like the thought that you would have to have a dime in your pocket to make a phone call seems very 80s to me.
It's funny. I had the same 80s moment, but for different reasons. It's because it had been a dime for so long. And then the mid 80s is right when the phone company decided we've been undercharging for this and you're paying a quarter. And people lost their minds.
Really?
Yeah. And that became this reference point in a lot of different shows and movies where now it used to be a dime. I mean, because it was for decades, it was a dime. And it was one of those price points that really resisted change for a long, long time. And then finally it went up to a quarter, which sounds like, what's the big deal? But you got to remember, I mean, that's 150% increase in cost. So, yeah, there was a reasonable complaint there. But, yeah, I just remember that was a very big deal at that point. There are certain items. If you ever listen to the podcast Planet Money, which, by the way, this is a great business model on the podcast. Recommend other podcasts that you have no affiliation with. But Planet Money did a really good one about how Coke for decades was a nickel a bottle. And there was a really interesting backstory about how a person decided that Coke was going to be big and so made a long-term deal to sell them the ingredients or buy the ingredients. And so then they refused to renegotiate that. So Coke was stubborn and just kept selling it for nickels. So that person would make a bigger profit. It was really crazy. And then they kept it there so long, it was hard for them to change. And then finally they increased it to a dime. But yeah, there are certain items in our culture that for whatever reason, mentally, we get stuck on a certain price point and refuse to accept an increase of it. I'd like for a long time, a phone call was that.
I'd like to ask Tookie a question.
Yeah.
Just being a slightly younger person than Mike or I, because when I think of a quarter, like a quarter to me seems like that's the lowest increment of useful money, and everything else is just is
Yeah.
weight. Is that different for you? Did like growing up, to me, anything else that can be sort of discarded or left. But a quarter is prized. Do you have a different feeling, or is it similar?
I think I'm sort of on that cusp of where a quarter was actual currency and the rest was irrelevant. Yeah. Because there was a point when, oh God, maybe either end of middle school or sometime early in high school, when bus fare was 75 cents, and it was 75 cents forever on the MBTA. And then they increased it to like $1 or $1.50 or something. And that's when there was outrage. Like, well, the T doesn't even run. Why? So that's when quarters sort of became phased out in a sense too, because then you not only did you need a dollar, they started trying to push the Sacagawea, no disrespect to Sacagawea, but they tried to push the Sacagawea coins on everybody at one point or another. But yeah, I think only for niche items would you need a quarter. Like those little, teeny juices. Some people call them quarter waters because they cost a quarter at the corner store.
Yeah.
So like those are the only things that you could legitimately buy for a quarter. Everything else at that point, I think inflation really started to hit. And
do you remember dime phone calls, Tookie?
No. It's always been like you need the big coins. You need the big coins for parking meters and pay phones and bus fare. Yeah.
It's funny, between this and I've been rereading all these old mysteries I've read in the past, which is necessary to reread something. But a lot of them are set in the 70s and 80s, and he's on payphones all the time. This detective that I'm reading, Lawrence Block's Matt Scudder series. And it's funny because I'm suddenly realizing there's something very appealing to modern day Mike about anonymity from that time. Of just like, oh yeah, he would just call on the payphone and no one in the world could ever know who that person was calling. This is a phone call that would disappear into the ether, which is not a thing that exists in life anymore.
Oh my God.
Like that idea of you would have to go, and even then, like you'd have to go into somebody's office and use.
Mike.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to defraud someone of a phone call to actually get to be private. And even then they can find it out. So yeah, that idea of the private phone call that no one will ever know about. Yeah, our lives are followed so closely. This is now a libertarian podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're smashing the educational system. We're taking down paid phone calls. We're taking down the this is great. I am so into this.
Nice. Welcome to the revolution. All right. Sam creepy quotient. How creepy was Sam alone this week?
He wasn't super creepy of his own volition.
Okay.
He was dragged into creep territory, especially by that end part.
Yeah. He did try to be a gentleman and say, no, I don't think I want to answer that question.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would
didn't necessarily reply with the furor that anyone being respectful of a woman should probably have replied to, let alone her boyfriend.
And that's why it's at a 6.3.
Yeah.
Because he was definitely, he could have easily backed out, because I think men were still of the mindset of like, well, if I'm, it's another guy on the line. I'm going to listen. I'm going to respect that guy's boundaries. Yeah. But Sam allowed himself to get dragged into the creep zone.
Mm-hmm.
There is a line towards the end of the episode when Sam brings up the idea that he is in fact the victim of sexual harassment by Diane. or at least sexual desire. And which somehow I don't like this episode for Ted Danson tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like he's kind of like struggling to figure out who Sam is, but there's one line where he delivers it in such a perfect iteration of what has become the Ted Danson acting style, that like it becomes like the model for what I think Sam is going to be for the next like 9.5 years. And actually the model for every like sort of subsequent Danson character. When he says that he says to Diane, you want to climb Mount Sammy here, which is a terrible line, and should be it should break the series. But there's a way that Ted Danson delivers that line where he kind of swallows the last word, and it becomes sort of the signature. I'm Ted Danson. I'm going to deliver a line that maybe I'm a little uncomfortable with, and you in the audience are going to sense just the hint of my discomfort. So I'm going to underplay it, and we're all going to find it funny because I'm Ted Danson. And it like that moment happens for the first time in Cheers in this stupid episode. And it's really quite like, I rewound it a couple of times because it is like the prototypical Ted Danson line delivery. And it's this perfect amalgamation of creepy and genius that that I think is sort of the hallmark of that particular performer.
Well said.
Yeah.
And it left me wondering. So there's a joke that comes up during this scene where she's saying, is that including medical? Where she's suddenly thinking about taking the job. And that comes up a lot. But it made me kind of wonder of women who were looking for jobs at that time. And sadly, this was not just, and then in 84, everything got better. But like, what would you have been willing to put up with to get a good job? For someone who needed a job, this is good paying, good benefits. I need health coverage. It's a job I would enjoy proofreading at a publishing house. This is good. I guess there had to have been some level of sexual harassment that you just went, well, that's the job. I mean, it's really a bummer to think about from this episode. And that's a thought that just stayed with me afterwards.
Well, I think you're thinking about it, in 2020 terms.
Yeah.
Or 2021 rather terms. Because there's a part of me that my gut reaction is to side eye when other women of a certain generation have complaints about, these Me Too era women. Oh, you just kind of had to there's a part of me that gets why they have that attitude, because there's, in order to work and provide for yourself to a degree, the reality was that you kind of had to suck it up. You had to take it. You had to take the abuse. And that's really sad. It just goes to show how yuck everything was in the world prior to women finally being like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have to be that way. So, even though there's that gut reaction in me, like, why do you have this attitude towards Me Too and the Me Too movement and everything? But there's another side of me that understands that from their perspective, that was part of that was the climate, and that just was part of the job, was to take the abuse.
Yeah. And there's something, I don't know if this is human. I don't know if this is American. I think there's a really unhealthy part of us that doesn't want it to be easier for the generation after. As much as we say that we do, we look at this rite of passage, and if we had to suffer through something, we expect you to suffer through that too. And because I don't know if it's to justify our experience through it, or if we just on some level have to believe that made us stronger, or if we did believe it made us stronger. But it's kind of like doctors who, pull the 48-hour shift, even though it's been proven to be very dangerous and not beneficial, but it's a rite of passage, and you're going to do that too. It's the furor that some people put up when they were talking about student loan forgiveness and saying, I did this and I made a better choice and I went to a school that I could afford rather than taking out a big loan. And why should you have your loan forgiven? There is this feeling of you need to go through at least what I went through, and I'm not okay with you getting less. And I feel like that there's at least some level of that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that, not to veer too far away from Cheers, but like it seems so similar to the anti immigrant sentiments that we confront in the country. Like, how dare you get something that I had to strive for, regardless of whether or not you actually had to strive for that thing. There's such a fear of somebody else getting something more easily than you got it. But isn't that what progress is? Like, everything gets easier for everybody eventually.
Yeah. I mean, the fact
Hopefully.
that they can means you did it right in your time.
Yeah. Let's celebrate that. Like, great. We've moved forward.
Yeah.
But part of that is also not accepting the parts where we've actually moved backwards. Where, with the idea of the baby boomer generation and what a financial advantage they had that is not acknowledged. Yeah, like the cheap college and the cheap houses and the good wages compared to the national GDP.
The fact that credit scores were invented in 1989, I'm not over that. Ever since I learned that fact, I have been livid.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else we want to say about this week's episode?
I don't think I have a specifically like nothing super duper leaped out to me, but I do have a side eye at French Diane's moment. French moment where she says, I think I wrote it down, il faut cultiver notre jardin, which means we should cultivate our garden. Notre means our, right? And like, French is my first language, but I don't know if I would qualify as a native speaker because like I moved here. So I'm not as familiar with as many French idioms and turns of phrase, but that literally means our. And so for her to translate it as one should cultivate one's own garden, which would be il faut cultiver son propre jardin. Like that would be like one's own instead of notre.
So are we saying that perhaps Cliff was right?
Perhaps Cliff was. Oh God!
Was he using the derogatory correctly?
No,
but just that phrase doesn't translate directly into English, because maybe that is the phrase that they use, but when you translate it here, it would be our, which is not what you're actually trying to say.
Exactly. So that was sort of my nitpick. Though, you know what? In French, there probably is a derogatory tense. Everything's derogatory in French if you think about it. But
well said.
But yeah, that was sort of my
French. Don't send me emails. We can say anything bad about the French we want on this podcast.
They're freedom fries.
I'm so French. All right. So
wait, can
I go for it, Dave.
I just feel like we should name the writer of this episode, Tom Reeder, who's written the Tortelli Tort in season 1.
That was one of our other least favorite ones.
Yeah.
I have a fondness for that one, but that one didn't score well amongst the group. He's gonna write 5 more.
No.
I want to one more weird thing about this episode that really struck me was the fact that he name dropped Oriana Fallaci and Delmore Schwartz, which kind of seemed like weird. I just felt like there was an element of Tom Reeder trying to let us know that he's read the right books. I mean, Oriana Fallaci at least coming through Diane made sense, but to drop Delmore Schwartz, sort of contemporary American poet who I only know because I was a big fan of Lou Reed, and Lou Reed cited him as an influence. but to drop, it seemed weird to drop Delmore Shorts, except as like sort of like a way of like saying like, "Hey kids, I'm cool."
Yeah.
I don't know. You're on notice, reader. You're on notice.
What are his other episodes? Does he improve?
Let me see. I could tell you his other episodes are going to be this is it until season 4, it looks like. Then we're going to get to Who Done It and Teacher's Pet in season 4 or 5.
Okay.
Well, Teacher's Pet's an all-time episode. So Tom Reeder might be saving himself.
He's got a lot of other credits. He did a lot of work on Night Court, which, as we all know,
Great sitcom. Yep.
Is that streaming anywhere?
No, I looked for it.
Huh.
Really?
Well, I mean, everything, you can buy almost everything on Amazon, so you can buy the seasons. But if someone has found a place where you can watch that for free, let us know, because it's not on Hulu, it's not on Peacock.
But it's an NBC show.
It is an NBC show, but it depends on who produced it, because there have been so many mergers since then. So it was an NBC show, but who owned it? Like Cheers was an NBC show, but it's on CBS All Access.
Yeah.
It's also on Hulu, which is where I've been watching it. But yeah, it's on Cheers if you're paying, or it's on Peacock with ads. So it is a lot of different places because NBC did not own it. It was not an in-house show of NBC's. I think, I think that is the case, because there are shows that, like Parks and Rec, NBC, that's an NBC show. 30
Rock, Parks and Rec,
The
Office, yeah. Huh.
There you go.
We got to find Night Court.
Yeah. Well, Tom Reeder's going to make a big comeback, maybe, because I do love the Teacher's Pet episode. That's Albania, right?
I believe so. I think so.
Which is one of the all-time Cheers moments. Do you not remember, Tookie? Albania.
No.
Sam Simon talks about that. Yeah, there was an oral history.
Ever since we got to Frasier, I blocked out a lot of Cheers.
Where Sam Simon references that. One of my favorite moments, and still, if I hear the country Albania, I want to sing it in the Cheers episode, and I know it borders on the Adriatic.
Adriatic, yep.
Yeah. Your land is mostly mountainous, and your chief export is crude.
I went on a Tinder date with a guy from Albania. Very nice guy. We didn't go on a second date, but he was very sweet.
Did he produce crude?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But he was really nice. I think we went for coffee.
I didn't think, like Tinder dates, I did not think you went for the coffee. Tinder was after my time.
Yeah.
Tinder was post Mike.
Yeah, it should have been before and after everybody's time, because Tinder, I have feelings about Tinder.
Tinder, yeah. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on Tinder because every comedian has at least 4 jokes about Tinder. Yeah. But yeah, it does feel like maybe we need to I don't know what that smiley face means, but yeah, there you go.
Seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, Tinder, use your power better. Use your power better.
Well, the app du jour is Hinge.
What is Hinge?
I've never seen it, but I have a whole bunch of friends who use it, and I'm like, my issue is they rave about Hinge, but and it's a dating app with the express purpose of creating relationships, and I'm like, you've been using this app, but you're still single. Something is up with these apps.
Yeah, I thought Bumble was the more popular one, because that's the one that's like more like women control it, right? Yeah. But not so much.
I don't know, because I got to a point where when I was on Tinder long enough, I started matching with like a ceiling fan and a breakfast burrito, Garfield the cat. Like I matched with Space Ghost and Brock. Got swiped left by Zorak. Fuck Zorak. But I know.
Right.
Okay, but I was at that point where I was like, this is not for me. I'm deliberately matching with parody accounts at this point. So I quit the game. And unlike a lot of people of my generation, I met the guy that lives in my house now in real life.
Crazy.
Nuts.
That is insane.
It's unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah. We met, well, Dave, that is how Dave, I'm the only one who did not do that. I met through the technology. I mean, Dave, a friend posted a picture of Dave and Mel before they were Dave and Mel on Facebook recently.
Ah.
That was exciting.
I think I missed that. I'm gonna have to go back and.
Didn't I text you the picture? It was the Tempest cast picture.
Oh yes. I'd forgotten that we were both in that picture together. Yes.
Yeah, our friend Nicole Canella posted that. Yeah, you guys are there, but you're not a couple yet. But you're close enough that you can tell you are supposed to be a couple, but you didn't realize it yet.
Those were halcyon days, and now we're trying to find that distance again after a year together in the house.
I'm being. You'll get there. You'll get there.
I think we got to finish the attic and the basement, and then we'll really have something. Have a firm foundation to build on.
It's coming around. Yeah, I mean, nothing saves a marriage like home renovations.
She's gonna cask of Amontillado me if she gets the chance.
We're renovating our bathroom with a friend, and we're taking it down, and I'm really afraid we're going to find a body because the walls are so thick. Like, what he keeps saying is, okay, the guy who built this house was really, you could tell, was Cold War scared. Like, super thick walls, and we're taking walls down and really afraid at some point we're going to find someone that made the builder mad. I'm just saying.
Dig into this builder's company and see if they were Bulger affiliated, because
Dan Bulger? Who did he kill?
We love Dan Bulger here.
Oh, okay.
The other guy.
Dan Bulger, he's not watching. But yeah, Dan Bulger, I love Dan Bulger. He has the weirdest antagonistic relationship with Marcus Smart of anyone I've ever seen. He is ready to trade him for tennis balls. It's bizarre. Like, after seeing how much he meant to this team, how do you not understand the value of Marcus Smart at this point? I don't want to trade Marcus Smart for Aaron Gordon. How drunk are you? Not only is that the rumor that they're going to trade Marcus Smart, they're going to trade Marcus Smart and picks for a guy who's been in Orlando for 37 years and has never won anything, because you can't possibly find 14.6 rebounds and 4 assists anywhere else. I mean, I think those are Marcus Smart stats. He does all of that smaller.
I forgot to bring up, I saw Dan yesterday, actually.
Where'd you see Dan Bulger?
At the Comedy Studio.
You were at the Comedy Studio?
I sure was.
Whoa, what's going on being in person at the Comedy Studio? Actually, he sent me a picture from the Comedy Studio, and I forgot to ask what he was doing there. What was happening?
Yeah, the show airs on April 1st.
Well, now.
Yeah.
All righty.
That's a tease.
'Tis a tease.
That is a big market tease.
Yeah, there's we taped a show, a little special of sorts.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Can I ask about it, or is that all you want to say about it?
Oh, what were you going to ask?
I was just going to ask, are you telling jokes, or is it another format?
No. It is a stand-up show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. April 1st, everybody. If you want to see Tookie Kavanaugh telling some jokes.
Yeah.
Apparently there will be a way to do that we don't know yet. But check out thecomedystudio.com.
Yes.
And you can see stuff. There you go.
Yeah. Both are there.
Look, I wouldn't hate getting Aaron Gordon, but I don't want to give up much for him. I would rather pay more for Vucevic, who's actually at least put up real stats and been an all-star. If you're going to be on a bad team that long, you should at least have been able to put up some stats and big numbers. What has Aaron Gordon ever done?
I don't know.
What am I missing?
I like Aaron Gordon. I feel like he corrects for. I'm a Danny Ainge stan. I think he's done a overall a pretty amazing job. I think his big oversight was not realizing that while the league was getting like kind of smaller, actually guards were getting bigger. And we keep, Carson Edwards is not going to have a place in this league. I love him. I love his thighs are incredible. I love watching him, but he's not going to play in this league. Like you need size at the wing, and Gordon fixes that, but I don't want to give up Marcus Smart for that, because Marcus Smart is like, it means more to me than Aaron Gordon could ever mean to me.
Marcus Smart is 3 inches smaller and defends centers better than Aaron Gordon does. He legitimately is the best defender we have on the other team's big man.
Mike, the intensity in your face.
I want Marcus Smart to be appreciated. I know it's a weird trait that I have. When I feel like someone is underappreciated, I become a little bit of a zealot. That's why I spent 78 minutes talking about Marvelous Marvin Hagler last week. It's why I don't want to trade Marcus Smart. Like, he's made big plays for you in the postseason. He's not afraid of the moment. He's got the energy. He's on a contract that is clearly undervalued. What are you looking for? He should be the third guy on this team that you don't want to trade. I like what Rod Williams has done so far too. But if that gets me a good piece, buy Rob Williams. I'm fine with that. Am I crazy?
All I got to say is I don't care for Danny Ainge. Never have.
Now, why do we not care for the Danny Ainge?
He has made some decisions. That have I'm hard to shake.
Okay.
And Ainge has made some decisions that have shaken me a little bit.
Yeah, what did he do?
What's the big one? Like, what's the one that?
Oh God, I think he's responsible for Antoine.
In what sense? He was responsible for Antoine in both directions.
I know, but
he traded him away, which was not a bad decision.
Not a bad decision.
And then he traded back for him when he got him cheap.
Once an Antoine is, once you are rid of an Antoine Walker in your life, you do not bring back.
So you're mad that he traded for Antoine to bring him back on the team?
Yes.
Okay.
Among other things. I think if Kevin McHale maybe were our GM,
if Kevin
McHale and his knees, I think, have some sort of psychic power, but
if Kevin McHale were our GM, we would have been picking first through third for the last 18 years. And I say this as Kevin McHale's biggest fan growing up.
Yeah. If you want to get into a tortured relationship that would put Sam and Diane to shame, Dave Rabinow and Kevin McHale,
all right,
is the one.
Oh man, when Homeboy showed up at a Trump rally, that really that
was not good. That was not a good look.
Oh boy,
that was not a good look.
You gotta bury some skeletons in the backyard at that point.
Kevin McHale, it's funny because he started off so high as a GM too, where he was the guy willing to take the high school kid because he said there's too much talent there. And Kevin Garnett became a generational player, and then he could never put a team around him.
Yeah.
And then he finally did, and it lasted for one season. And then he had to trade him away. Although he did get Al Jefferson, and I'm sorry, I ride with Al. If he had not hurt his knee, he would have been one of the top big men in the league. Everyone forgets how good he was.
Did I ever tell you about the story when I met him at a Quiznos?
You did not tell me this. Well, I would remember you meeting Al Jefferson at a Quiznos.
I met Al Jefferson at a Quiznos. I was hanging out with my friends in the middle of Downtown Crossing in downtown Boston. We were just like hanging at Quiznos, and and two of us stopped in to get lunch. I was sitting. I didn't want a sandwich at the time, and he was finishing signing some shoe for like a kid who recognized him, and he was headed to the bathroom. And I was like, and of course my girlfriends there were like oblivious, but I was like, "You're Al Jefferson." He's like, "No, I'm not." And I'm like, "You're Al Jefferson." He's like, "That's my brother." And he ducked into the bathroom.
Al, come on. That's my brother.
Yeah.
No, it's not, Al.
No.
Oh, Al, he'd be thrilled if you recognized him today.
Love me some Al Jefferson.
Oh, the career he should have had.
Truly.
Yeah.
And still a great career. Like still like what?
Solid.
Like 12, 14 years, like
Respectable.
15 and 10. Like he no shade for Al Jefferson here.
But when he got traded away, I mean, we were all fine with that trade. We all wanted Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
But I think we all thought they were getting an all-star.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to watch Al Jefferson be a Timberwolf all-star for the next 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Because he was like 22 when they traded him.
Something like that.
He was early 20s. He was still a young guy at that point. Yeah. Yep.
But,
all right. Well, Al, come on the show sometime. We're all fans.
Bring your brother.
Bring your brother, Al.
Yeah. If you're not available, see if Bob Jefferson's available.
Yeah, fuck you, Chris Paul. Al Jefferson did it first.
At a Quiznos. Iconic.
All right, Quiznos, we're here for sponsorship. You can tell how much we enjoy an episode by just how much Celtics trade talk happens in any given episode of Norm, a Cheers podcast. We're going to have a great episode next week. Andy is back. I really love this one. It is going to be the reason that until I was about 17, I really thought I was going to play Othello at some point. It led to a lot of
Lawrence Olivier way, I hope.
I didn't know.
Okay.
We're going to talk a lot about it next week. Not the Olivier way. No, I thought I was going to play it the Andy way. I had no idea. All right. I am Mike. That's Tookie. That's Dave. We're going to come back next week. We're going to be talking about Cheers. Stay safe, everybody. Sign up for a vaccine. We'll see you soon. Bye.